Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Brajajana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamasipad Paramahansa Prabhudakacharya Astatasa Shishimad. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananda Gaura Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Prem Sika Host Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai, Shri Maya Panavidhan Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Gau Premanandi, all glorious Sima devotees, all glorious Sima devotees, all glorious Sima devotees, all glorious Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, Text number 10. Teshu tad riktahareshu griha koshanu jivashu narudhena mamatvena visayes pamavadjata Teshu tad riktahareshu griha koshanu jivashu Rudhena madhena Visayes Bhanapadhyata Teshu tad riktahareshu Gujakoshanu jivishu Rudhena madhena Visayes Bhanapadhyata Tesutad Viktahareshu Gujakoshanu jivishu Nirudhena mamatvena Visayes Bhanapadhyata Nirudhena mamatvena Visayes Bhanapadhyata Tesutad Viktahareshu Gujakoshanu jivishu Nirudhena mamatvena Visayes Bhanapadhyata Tesutad Viktahareshu Gujakoshanu jivishu Nirudhena mamatvena Visayes Bhanapadhyata Teshu to them Tat Riktahareshu the plunderers of his money Griha home Kosha treasury Anujivishu to the followers Nirudhena deep-rooted Mamadvena by attachment Vishayeshu to sense objects Anvabhadyata became bound Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki. These sons and grandsons were virtually plunderers of King Puranjana's riches, including his home, treasury, servants, secretaries, and all other paraphernalia. Puranjana's attachment for these things was very deep-rooted. Purport. In this verse, the word rikta hareshu, meaning plunderers of wealth, is very significant. One's sons, grandsons, and other descendants are ultimately plunderers of one's accumulated wealth. There are many celebrated businessmen and industrialists who produce great wealth and are highly praised by the public, but all their money is ultimately plundered by their sons and grandsons. In India, we have actually seen one industrialist who, like King Puranjana, was very much sexually inclined and had a half a dozen wives. Each of these wives had a separate establishment that necessitated the expenditure of several thousands of rupees. When I was engaged in talking with him, I saw that he was very busy trying to secure money so that all his sons and daughters would get at least 500,000 rupees each. Now back then, that was a lot of money. We're talking about maybe the 30s. That was a lot of money. Thus, such industrialists, businessmen, or karmis are called mudhas in the Shastras. They work very hard, accumulate money, and are satisfied to see that this money is plundered by their sons and grandsons. Such people do not want to return their wealth to its actual owner. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 5.29, Bhoktaram Yagatapasang Sarvalokam Maheshwaram, the real proprietor of all wealth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the actual enjoyer. So-called earners of money are those who simply know tricks by which they can take away God's money under the guise of business and industry. After accumulating this money, they enjoy seeing it plundered by their sons and grandsons. This is the materialistic way of life. In materialistic life, one is encaged within the body and deluded by the false egoism. Thus one thinks, I am this body, I am a human being, I am an American, I am an Indian. This bodily conception is due to false ego. Being deluded by false ego, one identifies himself with a certain family, nation, or community. In this way, one's attachment for the material world grows deeper and deeper. Thus, it becomes very difficult for the living entity to extricate himself from his entanglement. Such people are graphically described in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 16, 13, 14, and 15 in this way. Idam adya maya labdham, imang prapsye monoratham, idam astidham apime bhavishyati punardhanam, asamaya hatashator, hanisye kap param api, ishvaraham aham bhogi saroham balavansaki, adyo bhijana van azmi konyosti sadraso maya, yakshe dasyami modisya ityagyana vimohita. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemy will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices, and I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. In this way, people engage in various laborious activities and their attachment for body, home, family, nation, and community becomes more and more deep-rooted. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmalitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Mukam Krotavachalang Pongundang Hayate Grim Yatkripa Tadaham Bande Shigurum Dinataranam Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Bhavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Materialistic people work very hard, as Prabhupada mentions here, to accumulate a lot of money. And they have various ways to secure their wealth. There's banks. And then in their home they have alarms, and there's guards sometimes, big safes. So many ways they try to secure their money, because they're very fond of money. I was distributing books one time, and I asked these two gentlemen from Europe to give a donation, and they said, "Well, but I'm very fond of my money." No, thank you. So people are very fond of money, and they try to get more and more, and try to secure it in so many ways. But if they have a son or daughter and wife, and they're taking their money, oh, isn't that nice? My wife is taking my money. My children are taking my money. Isn't that nice? Prabhupada was speaking about this. They take pleasure, as Prabhupada mentions here in the purport. They enjoy their children or wife taking their money, because it's part of the family. But it says that they're plunderers. So they want to please their family. But actually the purpose of the human form of life is not to please the family, but to please Krishna. This is the goal of life, actually. Because Krishna, he's the actual enjoyer. He's the Lord of everything, and he's our Father, our best friend. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalokam maheshram suradam sarvutam gyatvam shantim rishati. He's the enjoyer of all sacrifices. All money should be enjoyed by Krishna, not by ourselves. And therefore, what is our motto in ISKCON? Simple living, high thinking. We don't need much. And these people, they get so much money, but they could still, you could only eat, some sabji, 4 chapatis, They can't, they get so much money, but you can only eat so much. Right? And they still only get 6 feet by 2 feet place to sleep. And sometimes the homeless are sleeping better than the wealthy, because there's so much anxiety. They have to take sleeping pills. So much anxiety, stress. So better to understand. Try to understand that Krishna, he is the actual enjoyer. He is the proprietor of everything, rather than trying to please one's family members. Prabhupada said this is skin disease. My son, my daughter, my wife, my uncle, my nephews. This is skin disease. And it expands to my country. Skin disease. Prabhupada was speaking about this in India. Back in they had that partition, the Muslims and the Hindus. There were actually millions of them died. Muslims against the Hindus, actually brought about, Prabhupada said, by the British. Yeah. So they were killing each other, and they were piled up, but no one could tell who's a Hindu, who's a Muslim. This skin disease. This is a major disease, an epidemic, pandemic, skin disease. And some people think, oh, white skin is good. Black skin, oh, that's not good. Yeah. Brown skin, white skin, that's good. Yeah. Skin disease. Yeah. Vidya vinaya sambhane brahmane gavihasni suni chaya spakacha pandita samadarsha. The learned sages, they see with equal vision the Brahmana, the cow, the elephant, the dog eater, because they see the soul is there. Of course, you can't actually see the soul, but with knowledge, one can see the soul. When I'm distributing books, I point this out to people, and they, oh, that's very nice. You never hear such a thing, you know. And explain to them that, yeah, everything that you see that's conscious, it's alive, there's a soul there. No one says that. But when they hear that, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because even with all the advancement we have in science, to this day they don't know. What is consciousness? Haven't a clue. They speculate, but that's what it is, it's speculation. So Krishna explains, what is consciousness? It's the soul. That's who we are. So this process of Krishna consciousness is meant to reawaken this understanding that we're the soul. And we're part of the Supreme Soul, Krishna. And we're servants of Krishna. And that's the perfection of life, is to serve Krishna, not to serve our family or society, but to serve Krishna. So many people, they're serving the country. Just like the best servant of India was Gandhi. He was such a good servant. And he wanted to see that the Muslims and the Hindus, they come together and they live together happily, you know, serving Allah and, you know, serving Krishna, and just but no, it didn't happen. And although he served so nicely the country, his own countrymen killed him, shot him dead. Yeah. So actually, Prabhupada explained that he was warned. I've heard there's danger tonight. Don't go to the function. But still he went. Yeah. Not very intelligent. Krishna gave him a warning. So better serve Krishna. This is the pleasure of the soul. This is where we're actually looking. Everybody wants happiness. This is the nature of the soul. Satchit Ananda. Eternality, knowledge and bliss. So the goal of life, one time a reporter asked him, so what is the goal of life? To be happy, Prabhupada said, to be happy. But happiness comes from service to Krishna. Not service to our body, service to society or family, but service to Krishna. So this is the goal. To be happy, to understand our eternal nature, Satchit Ananda Vigraha, and to have this knowledge, this absolute knowledge. There's so much knowledge, but there's a lot in the material. There's a lot of relative knowledge, an abundant amount of relative knowledge. Yeah, perhaps, maybe, but we're getting absolute knowledge. So the goal of life is to absorb this knowledge, and not only to absorb it, but to live it. Yeah. To live this knowledge. And then we get away from this skin disease, you know, family attachment. It's natural. You have a family, you become attached to it. Man gets married and he wants to have children and, you know, and enjoy life, right? Just like that amazing story of King Chitraketu. Amazing. He was a king with many wives. You wouldn't believe how many. Many wives. But they were all barren. Couldn't have a son. And for a king to not have a son, I mean, that's like, I don't know if Chandrika Pandit ever said anything about that, but it's it's not good. Huh? Yeah, he passes down the duty, right? So he takes on the position of he becomes a prince and a king, right? But he couldn't have a child. He was really, really upset. So then this great sage, Angira Muni, visits him, and he could see that he's quite distraught. But he actually mentioned that you're a great devotee. Actually, he even mentioned King Chitraketu. Angira Rishi said that. So why are you so distraught? What is it? He explained the problem. I don't have a son. I have so many wives, they're all barren, I can't have a son. So he said, well, I bless you to have a son. But that son's name will be Harsha Shoka. Be a cause of happiness and a cause of distress. And the sage, he understood, the king, he knew how powerful Angira Rishi was. He's like Narada Muni. He's actually born from the mind of Lord Brahma. Very great personality. So he was so happy. Harsha Shoka, all right, he'll give me some happiness, and then he may be a little deviant. Might not be very obedient son, but that's all right. He was thinking that would be the harsha, the distress. But anyway, I get a son. I'm going to have a son. So shortly after, his one of his wives became pregnant, and she had a son, and it was big news in the kingdom. Everybody was so joyful that the king, he has a son now. Except for some people weren't very happy that he had a son. His queens, his other queens, they weren't very happy because the attention of the king was going to this one queen that gave birth to a son that he was praying for, practically. So even back then, as is now, there's a lot of envy. And they were so envious of this lady, of this queen that had the son, that they poisoned the son. I guess he was about 5 years old. Maybe younger, huh? Younger than that, okay. So the queen thought that the son was resting, so he told the nurse, "Go in and bring my son." And when the nurse went in, she saw that his eyes were rolled up and lifeless, and she just started wailing, crying. And the queen said, "Why is she crying like this?" So she went in and she saw that her son is dead, and she also started crying. And news got to the king that your son is dead. And he started crying. It's rare to see a grown man cry, a king, powerful king. So it's described that he's walking to his palace, and his legs are buckling under. He could barely even walk. He's so distraught. Just the thought that his son dead. So he went in there to the room, and he's crying and crying. Everybody's crying, just so disturbed. So then Angira Rishi shows up with his dear friend Narada Muni. And the king was still, he was actually quite together, so he started inquiring from them, please, your sadhus, please help me to understand, how this has taken place, and he was speaking like this. And Narada Muni said, I'm going to give you a mantra by which you're going to see Krishna or Vishnu face to face in 10 days. Such mercy, Narada Muni is so merciful. My favorite of all the sadhus in the Bhagavatam. So then he said to the dead child, why have you left? Untimely, giving so much pain to your parents. Please come back. Tell us what. So in the Bhagavatam it says the Jiva Uvacha, the Jiva said. Do you have it there, Davida? It's very interesting that the dead body came alive and started speaking amazing philosophy. That you're saying that I've given distress to these parents, but I've had so many parents. I've had and I'm going to have more parents. And according to destiny, according to the arrangement of the Supreme, now I'm gonna go on to another destiny. So imagine that really woke up some people to self-realization, to the reality, that we're actually the soul within. So special mercy there by Narada Muni and Giri Rishi. So read a few of them. Take the microphone. This is very interesting. This is a child, maybe a 1 or 2 year old, and he's speaking this amazing.
I get the impression that he's like just younger than that, but anyway, that doesn't say.
We don't know exactly how old he was, but he was young.
Anyway. The Jiva said, according to the results of my fruitive activities, I, the living being, transmigrate from one body to another, sometimes going to the species of the demigods, sometimes to the species of the lower animals, sometimes among the vegetables, and sometimes to the human species. Therefore, which birth were these my father and mother? No one is actually my mother and father. How can I accept these two people as my parents? In this material world, which advances like a river that carries away the living entity, all people become friends, relatives, and enemies in due course of time. They also act neutrally and mediate. They despise one another. They act in other relationships. Nonetheless, despite these various transactions, no one is permanently related. It goes on.
Yeah, it's quite a thing. So this is quite amazing. Part of the Bhagavatam, where it's like sometimes the Christians say, "Have you ever heard of someone coming back to life? Jesus came back to life." Well, yeah, many times. So this is the mercy of great devotees. And Prabhupada was speaking about this, and he said, if we can catch the mercy of a great devotee, then we go very quickly. We go very fast in our advancements toward Krishna. And we've got to catch the mercy of a devotee. And he gave the example, an amazing example. He said, just like a boy may be riding a bike, and a friend of his comes by with a car, and if you catch on to the car, you can go 40 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour. He gave that. There's not many cars in India at that time. Although he had a car. Prabhupada had a car. His son would drive it. But he gave that example. So if we catch the mercy of a devotee, then we go very quickly towards Krishna. And by that mercy of a devotee, we get purified. We advance in Krishna consciousness. We advance in devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he explains, Anupeksha suchir daksha udasano gatavyata, that one who is indifferent to material things. Now this is a very, one who is Anupeksha, who is Anupeksha suchir daksha, who is not attached to the ordinary course of activities. Anupeksha Means not attached to the ordinary course of activities. Just like you may be here in the temple and Balaram comes and asks you to do something. And, well, Prabhu, that's not my service. I do another service. Prabhupada said you do the needful. Do the needful. So we shouldn't be attached to I do this and that's all I do. No, this is a temple and so many things have to be done, and sometimes we have to do things that we normally don't do. So, not attached to the ordinary course of activities. Anupeksa Suchir. Suchir means pure. So Krishna is very attracted to people that are pure. Why? Because he's pure. Because Krishna is very pure. And he's not attracted to people that are impure. Just like there was one time where he was fighting with one demon. I forgot which one. Huh? Was it Sham? And one lady appeared naked. And thinking that would, allure him from the... So what did Krishna do? He just turned his face away. So Krishna's pure. He's not attracted to this. He's completely pure. He's the most pure. And by our coming in contact with Krishna, we also become purified. So there's inner purity and there's external purity. So if we're pure inside, then we'll be pure outside as well. Our rooms will be clean, the temple will be clean. Prabhupada went to the Hawaii temple, and it wasn't very clean. So Prabhupada asked the temple president, why is it so dirty? And the temple president said, well, Prabhupada, I try to get them to clean, but they're not very clean. What did Prabhupada say? Tell them to go back to their mother. So Prabhupada was emphatic about cleanliness. So important. And if we're clean, then, just like we have this insect problem here. If we're clean, then that problem won't be there. We may not want to, for instance, wash dishes or something. We may not want to, but this is a temple. This is we do austerities. We do things that we may not want to do. So we have to accept that austerity for the pleasure of Krishna. Because after all, this is Krishna's home. It's Krishna's temple. We're visiting here. Just like imagine if one wealthy man, he has many houses, and some friends of his asked if they could stay in his house for a year or so. Yeah, go ahead. And he comes back and it's a complete mess. There's insects all over the place and it's a mess. And how's he going to feel? It's not going to feel good about it at all. Having his friends, guests stay in his house and make a mess. No, so this is Krishna's home. So we should keep it very, very clean. This is God's home. So it should be so clean. It's a bit of an austerity sometimes to keep it clean. But this is his home. So we should keep it as clean as possible. And then if we do have it clean, then this insect problem won't be there. So purity within, if we have purity within, then purity without will be there automatically. And Prabhupada said, I don't know if I mentioned this here, but it's an amazing pastime. In Mayapur, they were doing this construction, and Prabhupada was walking with the devotees, going out on a walk, and saw that one of the toilets was filled with feces, human feces. And Prabhupada stopped and looked at it and said, what is this? And the devotees explained, well, Prabhupada, the workers, they're from villages, they don't know about flushing the toilet, never seen a toilet that flushes, so they don't know. So Prabhupada said, all right, they didn't know, they're in ignorance, but you know, how can you allow this to be like this? I mean, you can imagine how obnoxious it must have been. And it's still going on. I was distributing books at a university in India. A university. I went to the bathroom, same thing, toilet. You couldn't go to the bathroom. Still a problem. So Prabhupada said, that's all right. They don't know, but you know. If you see something in the mode of ignorance and you don't correct it, then you become affected by the mode of ignorance. You become affected by that. So if we see dirt, we clean it up. There was one devotee, and he was visiting one, or he was living at one temple. He wanted to see how long a piece of paper would stay on the lawn in front of the temple. He put it there just to see. 3 days. After 3 days, somebody picked it up. It's not good. No, I don't know. He was a devotee. But cleanliness is next to godliness. Actually, Prabhupada said cleanliness is godliness. So we have to be very clean. Yeah? Krishna will be pleased. This is outside purity. Inside purity, if we're not pure outside, then that doesn't say much for our inner advancement. You know? We should want to see everything clean. Devotees told me that some time ago, a Dravida was washing the dishes. He just saw such a pile, he just couldn't tolerate it. So he started washing the dishes. And a few days ago, I saw the same thing. It just piled up, after 2 days. So I started cleaning them up. So if we see dirt, we see something, if we have a responsibility to clean, then this is our responsibility. We should do it. And it's all of our responsibility, actually, to be clean. Yeah. It's Krishna's temple, so it's so important. Yeah. Not long ago, a few weeks ago, I saw a cockroach crawling on Krishna's foot. And a few days ago, same thing on Subhadra. I mean, when we hear this, that you get pain, and it's happening because of lack of cleanliness. Yeah. So important. Anupeksha suchir daksha. Daksha means expert. A devotee is expert. So, whatever it is, whatever service we're doing, we should try to become expert at it. And Krishna's pleased by that. Anupeksha suchir udasino means indifferent, or not, has no material cares. Now this is a very elevated level where one just doesn't care about material things, indifferent. Just like, actually this is the level of a sannyasi. A sannyasi is socially dead. He's socially dead. And I was thinking about the most wonderful example we have, actually, practically, in history is Sridhar Swami, who Lord Chaitanya praised as the Swami. Right? So, such a great devotee. But it's interesting how he took sannyas. He was married. And after some time they had a child. And I believe in birth she died. Yeah? So now, actually he's thinking, now I have this child here, I just want to serve Krishna. I just want to give my life to Krishna. But I have this child here, no wife, what to do? So he was lamenting that he has this responsibility now, and he just wants to serve Krishna. So as he was thinking in that way, a lizard fell down in front of him, baby lizard. And he's observing this baby lizard. And then he noticed that there was a little insect nearby, and the lizard got the little insect in, and he thought, wow, look at the little baby lizard. Krishna's taking care. Krishna's taking care of this baby lizard. So Krishna, he'll take care of this child. So he decided to just go. He took sannyas, left the child. Now there was, he lived in the village, and the villagers, they saw this abandoned child, so one family took care of the child. And at 5 years old, I heard this recently, they put the child in a gurukul there in the village, and this child turned out to be an amazing student, a really good student, just excelled in everything. And the teacher was just so happy to have such a nice student. And he grew up, and eventually he became the spiritual leader for many villages in that area. Amazing, huh? So then, Sridhar Swami, after some time, he came back to visit. And it turned out, from just talking to him, that was his son. And he was like thanking Krishna. He depended on Krishna, and Krishna took care. Became a very nice devotee. So, we have to depend on Krishna. Krishna will help us in our journey back to Him. So, anupeksha suchir dakshu udasano gatavyata sarvaramba hidoshina. I think that's the next one. Sarvama parityagi. Yeah. So, how's the rest of that verse go, Devin? In the English?
A devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result.
Free from all pains, not striving for some result. Now, naturally there'll be some pain. Prabhupada, recently I heard Prabhupada say that the body, it's a temple of disease. A temple of disease. Yeah. Just like people get cancer. And I was speaking to one doctor in Mumbai, or Bhaktivedanta Hospital. So I asked him, so how many types of cancer are there? He says, in any part of the body, you can get cancer and die from it. And he said, actually right now, we all have cancer. But it's at a, what do you call it, dormant. Yeah, it's not, big, So disease is there. There's so many different types of diseases. Yeah. It's like I have this disease now, but it's dormant now. Eosinophilic Esophagitis. It's a problem with the esophagus. Yeah. It gets inflamed. If I had some major, what it is some, anyway. It affected my throat even. I couldn't speak, I couldn't sing for months and months and months, and then I found out what it was. And then just by diet, I was able to bring it down. So there's so many diseases we never heard of. So many. So many devotees, as many of you know, left their bodies because of cancer. And a lot of devotees. And many of them were like, actually, for instance, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he said it couldn't get better than this. He was suffering so much, but he was transcendental. He said the pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional. Because he was just taking shelter of Krishna. He was, Radhanath Swami was there, and they were having Krishna Katha and reading, and there was a devotee, I forgot her name, from New Vrindavan. She was just absorbed in reading Prabhupada's book, suffering so much, but she was in ecstasy. And she was like the same way, couldn't get better. She was just absorbed in Krishna. So devotees, and when Prabhupada, there was just skin and bones. And when the doctor went there to see him, he said, he is experiencing so much pain. I've never seen anything like this, that he is so calm. And he's translating and giving purports. The skin is rubbing against the nerves. Excruciating pain. Prabhupada was just transcendental. He said it was like being in fire. The doctor said that. Yeah. So you could transcend the suffering, actually. And then striving, not striving for some result. That's the last point of this verse. Not striving for some result. In the material world, everybody's striving to get as much as they can. Things, cars and houses. Got one car, now I got more money. Let me get another car. Get a car for my daughter. Get a car for my son. Get so many things. Striving to get more and more and more. But a devotee is striving to please Krishna. This is what we're striving for. Pure devotional service. This is what we want. Everything else, not important. Because it's all temporary. It's all temporary. Just like there's big mansions here in SanDiego. Big, nice mansions. But what are they? Bricks. Right? Bricks and pipes. But some of these houses probably maybe worth $20 million. Right? But they're just bricks. Yeah. And paint and pipes. Yeah. Sinks. That's all it is. But they're striving for these things, big house, nice car, Mercedes-Benz, Jaguar, BMW, but it's just metal, But they create this illusion, if I could just get these things, then I'll be satisfied. But the devotees understand this won't bring satisfaction. Therefore, he's striving for that which will bring eternal happiness, ever increasing happiness. Service, pure service to Krishna. So on that note, is there any questions or comments? Any comments from the... Okay. Okay. Whoops. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada,